Each district in Duval County has priorities. Well, who's tackling the topic of homelessness? First-term Councilman Rahman Johnson joins us. We'll also dive into infrastructure improvements on the Westside. Now, how does Jacksonville fight back against racism and hate? Two groups are tackling the issue head-on.
Certainly the Y and the J, we have very similar missions. Despite what letter might be in our name, our mission is the same, to try to help improve the community, bring everyone together.
We'll explain Together Against Hate and how you can get involved. And a look at the future, which is knocking on the doorsteps of downtown Jacksonville. Innovator and entrepreneur Matthew Chang joins us on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for being here today. So this week, Jacksonville City Council is going to vote on the new budget for the coming fiscal year. There is a lot going on for council members, and roughly half the council are newcomers to the role. Rahman Johnson, representing City Council District 14, joining us this morning. I've been looking forward to a chance to have you in and get to visit about things going on here.
My friend, this is old hat. You know, as an anchor reporter, I started my career as a PA here 100 years ago. So
at WJC.
Good to be home, right here at WJC.
How about that? Yeah. Well, a lot of distinct topics to cover. I wanted to start, and really, sorry about coming out with the heaviest thing we could talk about right off, but it is something that we're talking about. The ripple effects from what happened 4 weeks ago with this racially motivated killing near Edward Waters University, where you teach as a professor. So tell me how this has affected you and what you're hearing from the people that you represent.
So the students, number one, at Edward Waters first, even though I am, many of them are still trying to process it, but I guess that's where my heart is initially, and because it happened in that community. And so me, as an Edward Waters graduate and as a professor there, they are still trying to cope with and figure out why. There's some who don't even want to come out of their dorm rooms, you know, to go to classes because they're like, well, who's next? When is it next? And I too have experienced that, going into a store and starting to pick out, well, what exits do I take?
How about that?
And it's not
so unfair.
It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
So there's still those questions that exist, but as I have explained to the students, as I've explained to my colleagues on the faculty and others, what's most important is that we figure out how to learn and heal, and that is not a process that's public. It's individual, but it's also something that we have to find that space within ourselves and do the work publicly, meaning that we've got to go into these places so that the initiatives, especially on the legislative level, that are implemented, or the rhetoric that's being talked about on the state level and other places that may have caused this, we've got to address the root concern of issues that bring out things like we just saw a few weeks ago.
So what do you see being done to push back against these hate-filled actions? What do you want to see done?
So I just got some, here on the local level, I just got a bit of legislation across my desk where our council is looking to enact a resolution where we not only mourn the members that lost their lives, or those community members that lost their lives, but also a resolution to stand against hate, to stand against divisive rhetoric. So that's number one, and it starts with the local level, but it's kind of like that each one teach one. There was a great institute when I was growing up, and I think it may still be around with the Jewish Community Alliance. It was called Metrotown, and it was a way for people of different cultures and faiths and ethnicities and religions to come together and learn. And I think we need more of that, more connection. And I believe that we're doing it in the community, right? I believe that we are taking the steps to engage people who don't look like us. And in a way, we've drifted apart. And as unfortunate and as sad as this incident is, it's allowed us a chance to say, we have drifted apart. What can we do to reconnect as a community?
So definitely on our show this morning, on our next segment, we're going to talk about an effort going on locally that is called Together Against Hate. In the meantime, let's talk about this. How do you feel about the budget? Because this week, y'all are going to vote on it, yes or no?
Ooh, let me tell you. So this is my first budget as a member of the Jacksonville City Council, and it is...
Is it tough?
It is, I will tell you, for those people that really enjoy sausage, it's really, really delicious at the end, but making it, if you've ever seen sausage being made, you do not want to eat it. And that's how the budget is. It's a sausage making process. I think there's some really bright spots in it. We're going to see some things for the upliftment of Jacksonville. I know I specifically have proposed, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and so the Black Greek letter organizations that have done so much independently, I put in some funds for them to continue their youth programming, their funds for the Chandra Cheeseboro track meet, and a lot of really great projects that are passion projects for my colleagues on the council, but there are things like the mayor's initiative to make sure that our city looks better, that we're keeping up the lawn and the increase in ground space. And so there's a lot of great things I think we'll see in this budget, but I think it's going to be important for the community to provide even more input. That's one thing I think that we may have missed the ball on. It's a new administration, a new council, and then as soon as we get there, we're thrown into the budget season.
It's pretty quick turnaround there.
This is a time for now community to reach out to us via email, via phone, and say, here's what we want to see to move Jacksonville forward.
So, and we get viewers, community members talking to us, hey, you should cover this, or what is being done about it? And one of those topics is homelessness. You said that you've got some work that you're trying to do in terms of homelessness in Jacksonville.
Absolutely. The J1 bill, I am sorry to say that it was defeated in committee. I do sit on the Rules Committee, and it did not make it out of committee. I was the only vote that voted not to withdraw it. It will come in front of the full council coming up on Tuesday when we do vote on the budget. But I will tell you, most importantly, it's something we must do something about. Here's the thing. I'm not looking to vote for a tax. I'm not looking to tax people in Jacksonville. But we need every tool that we can find in the toolbox available so that our homeless problem here in Jacksonville won't exacerbate. We're looking now, the majority of people that are homeless are not the chronic homeless, they're first-time homeless because of the housing crunch that we have here. That's what statistics say. So what do we do? And right now, there's no dedicated funding source for it. Did the J1 bill say that we would tax people specifically right now? No, it didn't. It was a resolution that would go to the Duval delegation, which would then go to this legislature to be reconciled by the House and the Senate, and then come back here, and then it would take a majority of the council to enact it. That would be years down the road, but at least we needed to start to have the conversation. And so right now I'm told, I was on the committee, and I don't even know, because obviously with Sunshine we can't talk, but the Rules Committee chair did say that he had something that he was going to bring to council on Tuesday. So that could add to the help of this problem. So I'm excited to see that. And the president of City Council, while we were there, Ron Salem, said that he and the mayor were each committing $500,000 from their respective budgets to create $1 million homeless trust fund to help people to keep from being the first-time homeless. So we have some great initiatives that are coming. And the beauty of this council, I know every council thinks they're the best, but there's so much innovation and vigor and energy on this council, and I couldn't be happier to be in this space where we can make some change for Jacksonville.
Well, before we run out of time, I know you want to talk about, hey, on the west side, improvements in infrastructure. What's happening there?
Great things. There were some streets that needed to be done over on Collins Road. I post about it. As you know, like I said, I spent most of my life on the news, so it's all about telling the story. And I'm out regularly as these projects are moving forward, so that there's a road project coming on Collins Road that I'm proposing now, the old Middleburg Road project, which we were supposed to widen it. It's been going on since 1999.
Forever.
For the Better Jacksonville Plan, right, the multi-billion-dollar Better Jacksonville Plan. Finally, we're seeing shovels in the ground in January of 2024 because I was able to come up with legislation that raised the cap of eminent domain from $5 million to $500,000. And excuse me, from $50,000. I'm thinking about another project, $50,000 to $500,000. And because of that raising of the cap, it now allows that program to start. So instead of having to go through parcel by parcel by parcel and bring that before the council and go through the 6-week process, now we are able to move it quickly in one fell swoop. So now shovels in the ground in January. So that's just the beginning. And there are several other projects, including parks and other roadways. I got the surprise park that's coming. And it's really an honor to have people in the community to knock on my door and call me and let me know, hey, this is what we need. I'm having fun. I said if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. As a storyteller like yourself, the stories I hear are so much fun, and it allows me to be able to tell those stories while I have told them as an anchor, and I've told them as an actor, and I've told them in the classroom. Now I'm able to tell them from the dais of City Council, and it's rewarding.
City Councilman, thanks for the time. Appreciate you being here this morning.
My friend, always good to see you.
All right. So we're going on the road in our next segment. When we come back, my on-location interview with leaders of an effort to promote unity in our community. Details on Together Against Hate when we come back on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
This segment is a little bit different. We're talking about an event that has just started. It's a speaker series called Together Against Hate. So I want to talk about that. Adam Chaskin is with us from JCA, Michelle Moore from YMCA of First Coast. Adam, maybe explain where we're at and what this speaker series is about.
Well, certainly we're here at the LJD Jewish Family Community Services in their Holocaust Gallery, which this month is featuring an exhibit from when Martin Luther King and the rabbis were arrested in St. Augustine several years ago when the racial inequality that they were protesting then. But this series came together as a result of the anti-Semitic incident that happened at the Florida-Georgia game. And Eric Mann, the CEO of the YMCA, and I had a conversation about how we should partner together to create an education series. We strongly believe that most forms of hate and bigotry are a lack of education that people have. They grow up a certain way, they never had experience with another religion, another race, maybe they heard something negative, they have no basis of fact to believe or not believe, and therefore these barriers get built. The first time they're exposed to that, they're somewhat hesitant because they've never been exposed to it. So this education series is to break down those barriers.
Michelle talked to me a little bit about this effort, and really it's a partnering thing that your organization is doing with yours, and the speakers series will be other voices as well, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important to note both of our organizations are a place where we feel like everyone is welcome, and so for things like what happened with the shooting a few weeks ago, that gives Jacksonville really a bad look, and we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to think that Jacksonville and the entire First Coast is a place where we can belong.
It's something because, as you just mentioned, this event, the speaker series, was already in progress, already something that you're getting ready to do. And then we had that hate-filled act happen. I'm sure that wasn't lost on you as one of the organizers, that this is really important for our community.
Without a doubt, it was an unfortunate reminder that how important this series and the education that we need to spread is. It was a racially motivated hate crime. To add on to that, the swastika, another form of hate, was carved into the weapon that was used. And it just, again, amplifies what we already unfortunately know, that there is hate in our community. And we hope that this program, by having different topics each month and have different locations around Jacksonville, that we'll be able to hit a bigger part of the population and help educate them and to break down some of those barriers of hate.
Michelle talked to me about this notion. A lot of people, when an event like that, the mass shooting and 3 people were murdered, say enough with the talking. They don't want talk, they want action. This is some action that surrounds talking. Why is it maybe helpful?
It's so tough, and these conversations are challenging, they're difficult, and it's important for us to provide brave spaces where people who may not be completely like the person sitting next to them can find some common ground, and that's where we have to start.
Yeah. So this starts this month, then there are more. What else is on the schedule, and how long does the speaker series go?
So it's a 6-month series. There will be 5 speakers on different forms of hate. Next month in October, we'll be performing on the LGBTQ issues, and Jasmine will be our main partner for that. And it'll be culminating in February with a new run in Jacksonville, the Race Against Hate 5K Run Walk, which will be right downtown, that we're hoping to have thousands of people participate in, is a larger form of showing that our community is going to stand up against the forms of hate that have been expressed.
So definitely want to make sure that if you're interested, you're able to participate. So the info that you just shared about next events, we'll share all of those events. We'll have that up on not just news4jax.com, but under our This Week in Jacksonville page too. And I did that interview with Adam Chaskin and Michelle Moore just ahead of the first event scheduled in that speaker series. That evening, 9:04 Word opened the series. Hope McMath, she moderated a panel discussion called Resisting Hate, Repairing the World. Also featured a gallery exhibit called We Could Not Be Silent. Here's what Dr. Rudy Jameson from the Human Rights Commission said is a symptom of the problem when it comes to racist attitudes and actions.
Willful ignorance and blind obedience. I don't even want to know what I don't know. And I'm not going to critically think about what somebody's telling me to do.
That's just a sample, but there are 4 more events planned through January for the Together Against Hate Speaker Series. The groups have hopes of continuing the series for years to come. The next one, though, October 10th at Friday Musicale. So robots used to be the stuff of science fiction, right? Our next guest says soon they'll be your coworkers. Matthew Chang is with us to explain robotics on This Week in Jacksonville. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
And in this segment, we welcome an innovator and entrepreneur, Matthew Chang, who founded Chang Industrial. And we're going to talk about a few things in technology that are really interesting. So welcome, Matthew. You're giving a TEDx talk in Jacksonville this coming month. And I know you're a champion of the adoption of robotics, or collaborative robots. Maybe you should explain this to us, because a bunch of us are like, what's he talking about here?
Yeah, so I think that the word robot invokes kind of a legacy picture in most people's minds. You can picture a robot either from a movie, or maybe you've seen one in real life in a factory, and you have an idea of what that is. So it's almost like the industry needed a new word, and that word is cobot, which stands for collaborative robot. A typical robot doesn't know you're there. It's not made to work with you. It's made to do its own task, and usually separated from the worker by a chain link fence or a guardrail or something. A cobot is not separated from the worker. It works directly with the worker, and it's equipped with special sensing to be extra accommodating to somebody's ergonomics or a pedestrian, something like that. So it's made to be in the workforce with people.
You're going to give a talk about this specific thing when you talk to TEDx, is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
what's the preview? What's the content that you're going to share?
Okay, I'll try not to spoil
12 minutes or whatever.
That's right. The folks at TEDx want me to keep a little bit for the event, but what we're going to be basically unveiling for people and unpacking is the role that cobotics are currently playing in the workforce. There's a small percentage of American workers that are already working hand in hand with robots. And then we're going to explain how that's going to roll out to the larger economy. So I think most workplaces, and we're not talking just manufacturing or e-commerce, most workforces are going to have robots in the workforce, and they're going to be working with regular people, helping them do their jobs.
So I want to ask about this. You wrote an article I saw published in the Jacksonville Business Journal just a week ago, and you called Duval the nation's knowledge hub for autonomous systems, or said it can be. What do you mean by that? And when I hear autonomous, I think of some of the projects, autonomous vehicles, even that JTA in Jacksonville is working on now.
Yeah, that's right. So autonomous systems are taking units of one, autonomous vehicles, and combining them into functioning systems. It could be a mass transit system like JTA is developing right now, or it could be a healthcare system like some of our hospitals are developing, and getting units of one to work together to do a common goal. And that's an interdisciplinary function. It takes workforce development, and I think you saw FSCJ recently signed up some workforce training programs around autonomous robotics. Some of our local universities are getting in the game. Some of our local institutions are starting to invest in pilot projects, and in the case of JTA, scaled out projects around autonomous. And one of the things we learned earlier this year is that Jacksonville is already probably the drone hub and the autonomous drone hub for the country. So when you take all this cross-disciplinary skill and you put it together, that's what it means to be a knowledge hub, is that we have
exactly what
here.
I was going to ask is how you define that. So everything that you need here, does there have to be some training? Does there have to be partnership, not just business, but with the local learning institutions, JU, UNF, FSCJ, Edward Waters, that kind of thing?
100%. So for the country, we're jumping into autonomous. That's happening right now. There is no legacy incumbent. You might think that Silicon Valley or San Francisco has a head start, but they don't.
That.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you they don't, and news media from the area would tell you they don't, right? So what we have the opportunity to do is, first off, pull on our organic knowledge. Who are the people in our community that can help pull this together? And then secondly, raise up the next generation. Partner with academia and the educational institutions so we have a pipeline of young talent entering the workforce to support this.
So I think about some of the companies that might be involved, and I saw you list some of them in that article, but Ted Willich, NLP Logics, has been here on the show. It's been a little bit, but hey, machine learning. I mean, all of these, Miller Electric's been involved, other business entities here. It really is, everybody has to kind of pull together, and you're offering something to each other, right?
That's right. So most people don't realize that Renaissance Jacks here in town started the largest K through 12 robotics program in the country. So what an asset for the community. Duval County Public Schools, we got to keep that going, but let's keep the students interested in robotics. You mentioned some famous companies here in town that have become iconic and institutional here. You know, they're doing great things. Let's get people collaborating. And then finally, there's a startup community. And that's probably the part people are least in touch with is there are startup companies here in Jacksonville focusing on the data science, the sensing, and other aspects of autonomous systems.
So a minute or less, bottom line it for us. What's at stake, maybe more, what's in it for us?
Okay, what's in it for us is a couple things. Number one, higher wages. So people love that. The residents of Duval will experience higher wages. Number two is upskilling. So if somebody's in currently a manual or low-skill job and they want to get into technology, robotics, or computer science, this is a great entryway because it's not the traditional college route. There's no barrier to entry. You can do this in your job. And then finally, I'd say is kind of a new exciting atmosphere. We're getting a new downtown, it almost feels like. Our area is exploding with new residents. Now let's bring in some exciting industry that keeps things, interesting for young people and creates new career opportunities.
I appreciate it. Matthew Chang, one of the speakers at TEDx Jacksonville. This conference is called Human Nature. It's focused on AI and education, neurobiology and tech, resilience, human connection, and more. It takes place October 14th at the JCT studios right in downtown, right across from the stadium. And if you want tickets, there's a link on TEDx Jacksonville's website, TEDxJacksonville.com. Go figure. Conference runs from 11 in the morning to 5:15 on that day, and then there's an afterglow party. Matthew Chang, thank you so much. Appreciate coming on today.
Thanks, Kent.
All right, so we're talking technology again next week. Dr. Alexa Haggerty will join me from France before she speaks in Jacksonville. She's researching how artificial intelligence systems could affect human rights. Plus, Chris Hand will be here for our Hand on Government segment. This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17 and online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.